Hello again, everyone. Thank you very much for coming. I'd like to thank Prologis team and Signature Development team for accepting our invitation to come tonight and share with the community their plans and the status of the Hilltop Mall and the future of it. So I would like to ask our guest speakers to please introduce themselves. From Prologis, we have Samida, Kevin, Melissa, and from the Signature Development, we have Mike, Faye, Sean, and Tom. So I don't know in what order you're going to present or speak, but please, when you start presenting, introduce yourself and your role. Thank you very much, and the floor is yours.
Great. Thank you, Sohela. I'll kick it off and then I'll hand it over to Signature. So I'm Samida Takral. Thank you so much for having us here, Sohela, and thanks to everybody from the community who's come here to speak with us. I work for Prologis. I'm an investment officer. We are the owners of Hilltop Mall. We acquired it about 2 years ago. And ever since then, we've spent a lot of our time engaging with the community, talking to all the neighbors, direct and indirect, trying to find out what it is that people would like to see at this site. We've also talked to, we've been working with Lena and the rest of the city staff on the specific plan with them. And the goal being to come up with, a mix of land uses that hopefully meet everybody's aspirations for that site, which has so much opportunity, in a way that's sustainable and is also economically feasible. And in order to achieve that goal, we wanted to bring on a partner that could complement, our skills. As some of you may know, our core competency is logistics and employment, data center, those types of uses. And so we're really excited to bring on the Signature Development team. They have extensive local experience with residential and mixed-use development. They worked on several large major projects that you probably know of. So Signature is going to introduce themselves and present some of the concepts that we've been working on with them for the site. So I will hand it over to Mike Gilmetti.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Samita. I appreciate it. Nice to meet you all by Zoom. My name is Mike Gilmetti. I'm the president of Signature Development Group, and we're an Oakland-based, primarily East Bay-based development company. We've done stuff in different parts of the Bay Area. In the North Bay, we've built in, Santa Fe and Novato, in San Jose, Sunnyvale, Fremont, San Francisco, different parts around the Bay Area, but primarily what we've focused on over the last 20 plus years is in the East Bay. I think some projects of note you guys may have heard of on the Nimitz 880. We built and are building a project called Brooklyn Basin in Oakland, which is kind of revitalizing an old industrial waterfront with parks and retail and housing. And we built some stuff in downtown Oakland called the Hive. We built out in East Oakland, Durant Square. In Richmond, we built a project called Anchor Cove in Marina Bay. And in San Pablo, we built a project called Abella across from Contra Costa College. So we built all over the Bay Area, but again, mostly in the East Bay. We're born and bred in the East Bay. So we're really excited to be potentially looking at this here with as a partner with Prologis. We know that there's been some prior discussions around potential uses that involved more, logistics and distribution type uses. We've heard from Prologis and from folks in the community that potentially wasn't the most desirous of uses, and so we're coming in and looking at things from a broader perspective of uses, including residential and retail and other types of things. So we'll talk about that in a second. But I wanted to introduce myself. I also wanted to say that, Zoom meetings are great for, maybe presentations, but they're not great for relationship building. And we do want to build relationships. So we'll leave contact information and would love to be able to meet you guys individually or in smaller groups or this large group again, but in person, come out and have coffee with you and talk about plan, talk about thoughts and desires you guys have. as a community. And we basically want to get around town and learn more about people as well as potential project. So I just want to offer that up. I also want to introduce members of the team. Sean Morley is here. Sean, we've been working together for years. fbrandin is here. Thanks, Faye. And Tom Quaglia is here. And so Faye and Tom are taking care of more of the planning aspects. There's a couple of folks in our team who are on vacation this week, so they just couldn't make it. Eric Harrison and Eric Morley, will introduce them to you guys in future meetings. So we're very excited to be here. We're excited to partner with Prologis. We're excited to learn more about this community and others in Richmond. Work with the council member here and the broader city council and planning commission. So with that, I'd like to turn over to Tom Quaglia, who's going to talk a little bit about the evolution of the plan and the process working with the city.
Thank you. Before Thomas starts, I just wanted to tell everyone that Signature Development kindly offered actually to have an in-person meeting and provide refreshments and stuff. And we tried to reserve the auditorium at De Anza High, but it was taken. So that's why we're in Zoom. But in the future, hopefully we'll do that and we'll meet at auditorium at De Anza. We'll have more advance notice and we'll be able to do that.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Sorry for the interruption. And one question, when you say we built this project and that project, do you mean that you designed and developed?
So we're not architects. We don't actually do design, but we hire architects who do the actual design. And yes, we did. We were responsible for the design, if you will, as owners and developers, and we actually did build the project.
Got it. Thank you.
All right. Good evening. Again, thank you so much for allowing us to present tonight. I am Tom Quaglia. I'm one of longtime partners with Mike and Muddy and Signature. My background is I went to UC Davis and was trained as a city planner and was a public planner for many years, and then shifted to a private development for the last 35 years as really the director and helping with the designs and the interaction with city staff and neighborhoods. So our little group you're seeing here tonight, you'll see us reoccurring because we will be the ones reaching out to you and meeting with you and answering your questions. So we have a little presentation tonight. We're going to show you some alternatives, our early thoughts. We're starting this process. So the first one I show you is the next exhibit. Our site is 77 acres. The city is undertaking the Hilltop Horizon specific plan, which is a total of about 145 acres. So our site is a portion of it, just a little bit more than half of it. But all of the meetings you're going to be seeing include all the other properties as well. And the city's desires to do something with those as part of a comprehensive specific plan. But obviously, we are preparing a specific plan alternative for our 77 acres that would be studied and hopefully ratified eventually as part of the specific plan. So we will.
I'm sorry, Tom. Can you point with your cursor to the area that the city has, under jurisdiction to add to this plan? That you said you have 66 acres and the city has 145?
Yes, so the exhibit that's on the screen shows a red outline. That's a total of 145 acres of land.
Okay.
And we are 77 acres of that. So all the public hearings that you're going to eventually be participating in, they're going to be talking about the 145 acres, and ours is part of that analysis, hand in hand. So I just want everybody to understand that we're part of the city's Hilltop Horizon specific plan effort.
Okay, I'm sorry, but who owns the rest of it? The other 65 acre?
It's all individual different property owners, just like Prologis. And they'll be participating in the specific plan process, over the next 12, 14, 16 months, alongside us. So we're one of the 20 property owners that are in this specific plan area. But we only represent and are going to depict our 77 acres. So if we go to the next slide, we are here just to present on that 77 acres you see in front of you, because that's the only thing we control. But we are working within the framework of the city's specific plan process for that whole area that I just showed you. So when we started this process, we look from a design and a developer standpoint, what is the built form? And we have some great schools here. We have some great neighborhoods close to us, but we also have 77 acres of concrete and asphalt. And quite frankly, the area out there is pretty devoid of any green, bikes, peds, whatever. But the area is dominated by mostly for sale housing. So when we're going to show you some options that kind of pick up on some of our themes, which is connectivity to the neighborhood, both from a bike and a ped and an open space standpoint in parks, as well as a complement to the neighborhood. So the first proposal we're going to show you here is what we call a land use plan. And these colors correspond with what the city is using in their greater specific plan efforts as we go forward. So once again, we're only talking about our 77 acres. So the city had already started the specific plan process. And one of their big early gestures was to take a portion of Hilltop Mall Road that is on the northern portion of this boundary and realign it through the center of the property so that that roadway essentially replaces that ring of Hilltop Mall. It leaves all the remainder of the ring road or Hilltop Mall Road in place from Kloss all the way around to Hillview Drive. The area to the north, showing that green that was previously a 5-lane road, is owned by the public and would be converted, all that asphalt we dug up, and it would be converted to a large green belt, bike, pedestrian, viewpoint areas, had beautiful views from there, some gathering points, and all the elements are to be determined. But essentially, the staff came up with that first starting point, big gesture, and quite frankly, we thought it was a good idea. So this plan depicts how we could take a street through the property, a public street. Previously, it was 5 lanes. We would do something much more neighborhood complementary. And then we have a short connection up to Hillview Drive. In this option A, the gray represents employment, and that potentially is soft R&D or a data center or something like that, but not a distribution warehouse center. Obviously, the green areas are public parks. We have one at each end, if you will. And then if you get down to the bottom, the red, pink is the existing Walmart, which is going to stay in this plan, and we're going to design and work around it. We're also going to do some enhancements to their surroundings to get some green and some better paths. And then we're proposing a new 9-acre retail center next to the Walmart. And that primarily, we'll show you some details here in a minute. The striped yellow and gold would be areas for new for sale housing. In order to complement this neighborhood and have a project that's ready to go, we are simply trying to continue what is built out there. And it's a variety of all types of townhouses, some condominiums, some single families, some duplexes, and some flats. But the goal is that all of those residential units would be for sale housing. So I do have a quick question. Lindy, are you okay waiting for me to finish up and then I can answer your question? Great. Okay. So this is the land use plan. So if you said to me, well, what is this going to end up looking like? So we go to the next plan. And this is an illustrative. It shows the large gestures in street lane realignment Hilltop Mall Road through the site. It shows potentially what that soft R&D and employment building could look like, if you will, just from a bird's eye view or from a sky view. It shows the existing Walmart in its present location with some greening up. And then it shows in this configuration, we have drawn a big box retail footprint here for the additional retail. What I didn't point out before, besides the northern green belt, we would also be looking at putting a public sidewalk and bike lanes on the remaining interior portion of Hilltop Mall Road all around this site. The
why don't you use your cursor just to kind of trace that for people?
Yep, no, on the edge, Faye.
No, the bottom edge.
Bottom edge, there you go. So along that, and I'll show you some details of that in a minute. The illustrative depicts all the different various for sale housing types that I just kind of described, but what it really wants to show you is the design principles, all the housing types that have all sorts of varieties of square footages and bedrooms are mixed among themselves. And so that there's a lot of differentiation between the different housing types. And that allows for people to have choices. Do they want to go upstairs? Do they want to be on a flat ground? Do they want to be in a townhouse and whatnot? The design principles, though, are all of these units face towards the street. So we never turn our back to these streets so that you get a more traditional streetscape where people can come out their front door, be on a sidewalk or in the street and talk to a neighbor. So this is the first option of this particular proposal. The second one is where the big box then gets replaced with what we'll call a more experienced type of retail, more gathering places. This is probably more neighborhood serving type retail. So everything stays the same, all the parks, all the green belts, all connectivity, but instead of a retail big box, we would have something that is more akin to.
Just so you know, you're actually sharing your video of yourself the whole time.
My picture got to be there.
Oh, is that for Lindy? I'm sorry, Sid. Yeah. That's all right. Just stay as you are. You're good. So this shows a different retail layout that's more neighborhood serving, more place making, more like plazas and that type of feel. The next alternative is where we take the employment soft R&D out of the land plan, and the rest of the plan stays as we previously kind of stated, except we take those 10 plus or minus acres of the employment and convert it to additional residential for sale housing neighborhoods. So an illustrative, that previous employment would look like a continuation, next slide please, a continuation of that neighborhood. Once again, more for sale housing, more variety of housing choices, all in a neighborhood setting. So those are two potential land plan illustrative options at the start of this effort. I want to show you a few more little highlights here if we go to the next exhibit. This kind of shows you what the bike, pedestrian, and green belt skeleton would look like in one of our plans. So essentially all this represents is pathways for the public to come into, through, experience all facets of this. Plus it shows how we're creating a big sidewalk and green belt around the entire interior of the ring road. So I just wanted to kind of show you the public bike ped representation. A couple more and then we're done. The next one shows that internal cross street. What we're trying to create is a quasi neighborhood feel.
Can you just go back and point out where that is? Yeah.
Yep. There you go. Goes right through the center of that property. So that's the realigned Hilltop Mall Road. So once again, we are fronting either the retail or the new residential with front porches facing out to the street. You can see here where we're introducing a new separated sidewalk that's protected from the street with a row of planter strip trees. And then we put the legal bike path, public bike path on the actual roadway, because that's what's desirable now. And then finally, we have 2 lanes in this configuration, 2 lanes going through the center of that property. So you can see how we're really starting to try to extend the neighborhoods and cozy up the site, but still accommodate the traffic that exists out there today. On the, go to the next slide. On the remainder of the ring road, if you look at the top, this is Hilltop Mall Road that remains as it is today, and it's 5 lanes of asphalt. So there is a potential, if you look down below, where we could take one of those lanes or 2 of those lanes, depending on what the traffic studies yield, create a separated pedestrian sidewalk around the whole ring, have a tree-lined street, and then once again, put the legal bike paths on that roadway. So we're starting to convert asphalt and concrete to hopefully walking and strollers and bikes. So this kind of gives a feel for that. Skip the next one, and then we'll go to the, keep going. So here's some kind of imagery. This happens to be kind of the open space and parks. We have some obviously active climbing equipment that will appeal to all age groups. We've got the young group, the toddlers, the middle age group, and then so the designs would be earmarked for that. You see on the upper right, we see the bike paths. That's kind of a feel for what it would look like up on the conversion of Hilltop Mall Road to a green path, and then just some representation images of the parks and potentially some of the residential behind it. The next one kind of depicts how some of the residential starts to play in to our streets. On the lower left, you've got the bike lane on the street, but then you have a monolithic sidewalk. On the upper right, you're starting to see how we're fronting the residential units on any green belt so that there's not walls and gates. And then just kind of some imagery as we start to see some of the form and function of the residential. And then the final slide here is the potential for the employment building, if you will, in our option A plan, just some kind of feel for architectural and form and function. So
before we go to questions, I just want to make sure we emphasize the imagery we're showing here in terms of the homes, the parks, and potentially these employment type uses are really just illustrative, just to give examples of scale and size, and even the internal street grids are really more a sample for scale and size, and just to show what could be done within those painted land use designations.
Correct. So obviously there's questions coming up, and I'll field the first one, but myself, Sean Morley, and Mike Gilmetti will be answering your questions as we go along. The first one was just the mathematics on the park. Yeah, we're 4 to 5 acres at a minimum, and that's before you include the ring road improvements, which would be an additional 1.5 acres, and then whatever green is created on the edge conditions with all the new housing development. So that was the first question. Lindy, do you want to go ahead and ask your question?
Thank you. Yes, it's about this first slide. In the key, there's 2 different colors for residential. I just wanted to know what the difference was between the pale yellow and the gold colored.
Well, they're both residential housing. We just lifted these colors from the city specific plan. So the reason that there's 2 different colors is because we are proposing such a wide range of different types of for sale housing. So we just wanted people to understand that you could have, a townhouse or a condo next to a small lot single family home. So this is just a cartoon depiction, but it just is kind of showing that there's a range of housing types in that for sale. Eventually it will be one color.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I really appreciate it. There's a question in the chat about the ratio of the green to residential. Do you want to address that before we get other questions?
So that's something that'll come through, again, from hearing comments like this tonight. This isn't a final plan by any means. It's an initial plan. So, you know, if the request is for us to study, you know, more acreage, we're happy to do that.
Okay, very good. Thank you. So, Charlotte, do you want to ask your question now?
Oh, yes, sure. Hi, Ben. My question is, assuming that the mall, the existing building there will be coming down, correct?
Correct.
With the exception of Walmart, correct.
With the exception of Walmart. And so will the community of houses, condos, or whatever, will that be a gated community, or is just an open community?
We hadn't gone any direction on that. We'd love to hear feedback, but we hadn't. I mean, right now we're just looking at, you know, what the project looks like. Hadn't formulated gated or non-gated. I think we were looking at public roadways here. The one, you know, through the middle and the one off Hillview. So we really hadn't contemplated gated, but we could certainly consider.
Okay. And my other question is, so is 24-hour fitness included in this plan?
So, Faye, if you could go to the retail one, what we're showing here is that we've got new retail that we could bring in, and potentially, if 24-hour fitness is interested in staying in the area, we could potentially work with them on a new space.
But they would have to leave in order for you to tear it down, right?
They would have, yes.
They're included in the main building as opposed to Walmart, which is a bit of a standalone structure that can be separated. And so it would really not be feasible to keep them in their existing location. But as Mike said, there's an opportunity for a longer range discussion if they're looking to stay within the community and want to be part of the larger plan in the future.
But if
we'll work very closely with them.
Oh, okay. So if you was to tear the building, so when the building is tore down, they won't have a place to go until the new building is built?
Potentially, we would have to work through a phasing approach for the site. There would, in all likelihood, be potentially a gap in time, but we're nowhere near those kinds of details yet.
Okay, I'm a member. That's the reason I'm concerned.
Super good question.
I'm an active member there. Okay.
So there's a couple that came up on that. Maybe we could just kind of go through a little bit of a timeline first.
Yeah.
So we're going to try and mesh into a city specific plan process. We've in chatting with city staff, it appears that the goals for the specific plan process are to be done and approved by January of 25. At the end of that specific plan process, what we would want to have done is have and Faye go back a couple, have, you know, a designation. Maybe it's this, maybe it's something that looks different. Maybe there's more green or more yellow or more pink or something like that. But we would have kind of a broader level understanding of what we could move forward with. And then if you flash forward to Faye, we would then come in with a very specific, use the same word, a detailed plan within that specific plan. We would hope we could get that done in that same year, calendar year 2025. So we wouldn't be able to break ground on anything until probably 2026. So for 24-hour fitness users and or for folks who want to see a project happen, nothing probably would be able to even start happening until 2026.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm gonna have Rita and then Catalina, Lindy, because you already asked one question. You'll be after them, please, or maybe after Laura. Thank you, Rita, and also thank you for your persistence in getting Prologis present here. Go ahead. You need to unmute, please.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. I'm excited about this because I've been a Richmond resident for a long time, and I remember the existing Hilltop Mall when it was built and how exciting it was for the community. And I hope this energy can continue. I like what you're saying so far, but I have concerns about what about the schools that are already up in the area, the charter schools? What will happen to them? Will they be forced out or be able to stay? And then I have concerns about the housing. Will it be mixed income level housing, or will it be all fair market housing that comes in? You mentioned there'll be several different types, but I didn't know about the income guidelines of the housing that'll be put in. And then my last question, I have many, so I hope to be involved in this with you, is about the recreation spaces, the green belt areas. Will there be spaces for not just the play lots for the children, but maybe rec rooms that people can rent for parties and different things, or stages or places where there can be like beer gardens or food trucks that can come in that can make it more community based. Thank you. Those are my questions.
Yeah. Mike, you want to tackle affordable housing, or you want me to?
Yeah.
Well, I think the answer on affordable housing is it's to be determined. I think there's a number of things that folks in the community are going to be looking for, probably. Right? What type of retail is there? There were questions on that, and excitement about could you offer this? Could you offer that? We're hearing tonight, and we have been hearing about what kind of recreation or open space is out there. Questions about affordable housing. Some people want more, some people want less. So I think right now, again, what we're trying to do is get to a place, hopefully by the end of the year, where those colors are represented. And then I think over the course of 2024 then, and really 2025, we can have discussions with folks about, what we could provide in terms of some of those other issues, affordable housing, open space. I'm not trying to be cagey, but we can't be everything to everyone. We can do certain things and certain levels of things, but we, ostensibly have to have a project that we can move forward with financially as well. And so we want to be good neighbors. We want to do everything we can. And so, there'll be at the end of this process, if these are the three most important things to the community, or these are the three most important things to the community, and we'll have to continue to work with you. We're not at that level of detail yet, but we know we need to be, and probably over the next 6 to 12 months, we're going to transition to that level of detail.
And Rita, you mentioned, go ahead. I was going to say, Rita, you mentioned too, just about some of the surrounding uses, including schools. Yeah, we're not planning to displace any of the uses around us, and in fact want to design our project in a way that helps complement and facilitate all of the businesses and the schools' long-term success, just like our new community. So, we've already started some dialogue with some of our neighbors as part, and we'll continue to do that as we get into this next layer of planning, especially as Mike noted.
Okay.
I would like to explain that they reached out to the city and asked them what's their view, because I wanted to present both sides. They said that this is Prologis and Signature's turn to get community feedback. Then with this feedback, apparently they're going to go to the city, talk to them, and then the city will provide community feedback time for you all. And I'll keep you posted about it. We'll have other meetings, as Mike suggested, maybe in person, maybe on Zoom again, but we'll be in touch at every step of the progress. And if you're not on my mailing list, again, I'm Sohaila Bana. I'm representing District 4. I'll put my email address here if you want to get on my community mailing list to make sure you receive updates about this. And also I will share the recording of this meeting with you. And I would like to ask Prologis team or Signature team if they want to answer some of the questions that are in the text, or they want to address them here as we're moving on. So
let me hit kind of a little bit more for Miss Lang, and then there's three that I can hit real quick here. So for Mr. Mayumi And Ms. Lang, you asked about the parks and acreages and the formulas. Essentially, the parks and all the improvements and the programming for that park will be part of this public process. It's also part of the specific plan analysis. So the city is going to do their formulas, know exactly what's going to be required, and we will work together and keep you informed on that. The second part of that, the programming for those parks, gathering places, potential food trucks for an event or something like that. All of that we're listening tonight, as Mike said. So that will be part of the outreach and the discussion as it relates to parks for this 77 acres plus the balance of the specific plan. And then lastly, I think Mr. Bahar, or first name Bahar, talked about what can we do to help make this go faster? Well, I would say, one, participate going forward, and then two, your participation hopefully is in active support. So the more support we have and the more consensus that we have as our group, that helps the process. That helps the elected officials and staff. So, and just to follow up on one City Hall thing, this presentation has been shown to staff at previous meetings, but it has not been submitted. This will be submitted to City Hall in very short order so that it will be a public record document there at City Hall. I think I hit those. Sean, did I miss?
Yeah.
There's one other.
No, go ahead, Mike.
I was just saying there's one other one, road access. I just kind of do more of a broad traffic. So there will have to be traffic studies undertaken here to show what traffic, existing traffic and existing plus this project and kind of existing plus the broader specific plan and what is needed. So that'll include road widths, that'll include signalization as needed. So that hasn't happened yet. My suspicion is that, the mall, when it was initially designed and the traffic that it was supposed to carry was, a larger volume and larger load than this project will have. Our goal is to have traffic moving smoothly as possible, obviously, certainly no worse than now, but hopefully better than it is now. But also, candidly, our dual goal is to humanize these streets. This notion of these giant, 1950s, 1960s, 1970s style streets, 6, 7, 8 lane streets. Sometimes it helps traffic move more smoothly, but sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it's dangerous, and sometimes it's harder to share the road with pedestrians and bikes and kind of having green principles. So we're going to look at all of it. But traffic, we know wherever we build is always something of concern, and we're going to study it thoroughly. And when I say we, it'll be city consultants that will study it.
Thank you. Catalina, please.
Hi, thank you so much for your presentation and your hard work. I just thank you for answering. My main concern was the traffic, the impact of traffic in such a high density housing area, but also big difference between having a community feel with small retail stores like this picture that's up on the screen now, than if we had a Costco or a big box like that, and the impact of that kind of a huge big box store traffic wise. This feels very community. It feels very appealing. And I live in Hilltop Village, so this is just in my backyard. I just wanted to register my concern and my support for having small businesses to have that neighborhood feeling. So that was my comment.
Duly noted.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Laura.
Hi, thanks again for sharing the diagram and everything. I was looking at the diagram. Most of it includes housing. And I was concerned about the small amount of spaces allowed for retailers. Because here in Richmond, we have to go 25 miles if you want to go to a mall to really shop. And I'm concerned about the type of retail. You said small business retails. What type of retails will be available for people so they don't have to travel so far if you want to go to a decent mall and buy quality things?
Well, I mean, knowing that the older mall failed here, you know, we're trying to redesign something that's probably more experiential retail. So, are there restaurants? Are there coffee shops? Are there fitness studios or 24-hour fitness? You know, it's the neighborhood serving kind of suburban concepts. This isn't meant to be a regional mall. That one is already a concept that didn't work. So that being said, Laura, if you have input as to types of uses or types of, you know, I want to see an Olive Garden there, or I want to see a 24-hour fitness there, please let us know. You know, we can't force any of those folks to be in a particular place, but we can go talk to them. And if we hear more of the types of things that you'd like us to, you know, chat with or about, we're happy to go do that. So you can do that in the comment section here. You can email us separately, or we can come out and meet with you and we can talk about it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Lindy, your turn now.
Thank you. I think I'm taking off from where Laura, I'm continuing from where Laura left off. So I've been in this area for 36 years. I remember when there was a Lucky's supermarket in this development, and I guess it didn't make it because it faded away probably about 25, 30 years ago. And now I know that Ranch 99 was interested in moving into Hilltop Mall before it disappeared. So I am interested in a supermarket, and particularly one like Ranch 99. Are they still on board? Do you know?
They're not. There's no discussions with Ranch 99 now, but again, we can reach out to them and talk to them about their interest. You know, look, we're kind of subject to the same stuff that you guys are. You know, there's been a big consolidation in the grocery industry in the last 25 years. It used to be there were, you know, 15 different groups you could talk to, and now there's 5. But
you are thinking about grocery for, you know, this is like a little village, so it would certainly need a grocery of some kind,
and
right?
within our retail space, the design that's up now, it can accommodate many retail local neighborhood uses, including small grocery format. We haven't gotten down to the point, and won't for a long time, candidly. I mean, just the way it works with retailers is until we have a plan and a plan approved, and we have something that we can actually go show them as leasable and buildable within a time frame to occupy, it's difficult, if not impossible, especially with smaller retailers, to get that sort of level of commitment. So what we try to do is create a type of space and retail experience, and that everybody can understand the kinds of uses that might be able to go to, you know, large mall versus smaller walking spaces. We're not proposing a strip mall, if you will. This is meant to be much more of a walkable place where people can stop, you know, enjoy their day and do something other than just coming for basic retail needs. But that'll be a long discussion. I just saw Trader Joe's pop up, perfect example of something that might be able to fit in here at a point in time. And certainly one of the most important things, and I think you'll find from other grocery stores that may have exited the area, the number of rooftops in an area is directly proportional to the amount of interest that a grocery, or candidly some other retailers, you know, will want to. And so our expectation is that while we have some great neighborhoods right around us, the additional residential that we're creating can help support the retail that we're proposing as well.
How many rooftops are you thinking?
Well, we don't have a hard number yet. We're, you know, not proposing at this point what I'm going to call high density housing, where you have, you know, many stories of housing above it. We're really looking at a range of smaller single family homes and townhomes. We'll be attaching a number to this, you know, concept plan as part of our next communications with the city to talk about kind of an up to range for the purposes of study. We expect a number of hundreds of housing units, very different than I think what may have been conceived originally for this site, which could have potentially, at least, under the city's plan, included many thousands of units. So I think we're moving in a slightly different direction than that. And that'll be a discussion point with the city in terms of our, goals for the plan. But we are, proposing something, as Tom said at the beginning, to be very much in keeping with the character of the immediate residential neighborhoods, which are wonderful and very successful around us. Did I say that okay, Tom?
That was perfect. If I can jump into, for Miss Jones, I forgot to. So hopefully you heard 24-hour fitness, unless they decide to leave, is not going anyplace for a while. So, but let me just say,
keep working out.
Yeah, keep working out. The couple of questions: amount of residential parking and public parking. This is an illustrative. This is a high level, cartoon. This is just to show people. When we get into the details, all the parking counts for both the shopping centers, the employment, as well as all of the housing in the parks will be part of a comprehensive plan. There was a question.
But we expect each house will have garages and
2-car garages,
street parking, and very typical neighborhood experience.
Yes, parking as well.
Yeah.
There was a question about how does the remainder of the specific plan influence us? We'll be working with the city to have a coordinated plan so that it all kind of talks to each other in terms of connections of sidewalks and green belts, so that they all kind of start to complement each other, and we pick up any missing links or missing infrastructure that has to be enhanced and cleaned up. And then there was a question about email contacts to be able to communicate with us. I think our team's started to respond and send out those email addresses. And if you email any of our team, you get all of us. So just email away and we'll be there.
Thank you. And I'll share your emails with the community as well when I shared the recording of this meeting. There have been questions about lack of amenities, like community centers, small number of parks, playgrounds, sports places. Why no amenities?
Well,
it's just early in the process.
Yeah,
so
I was going to say we're starting.
As we said, the amenities are, we have, community centers and clubhouses and such that are built into this plan. But we've actually heard from another group saying, they'd like to have, a senior center. And so there's, we'll look into what the open spaces are. We'll look into what affordable housing there are. We'll look at how much land is available for different uses. And we'll balance all of that at the end of the day. So we know that amenities are here. We want to do outreach and chat with you. I'll give you an example. We thought we were being really cool. We went to another city, and we had a larger park. It was a larger project, and we drew in a soccer field because we'd heard some folks say they wanted a soccer field there, and then we get there, and then all the people who lived around it said, wait a minute, we don't want a soccer field here. So we don't try and presume initially what to put in any of these open spaces. We want to come talk to folks. Tom showed some playgrounds and such. That may or may not be the right use for some of these things. So we'll come out and chat with you. We'll chat with folks in this existing and surrounding neighborhoods, and we'll get an idea for what those parks should look like and what should they contain.
Okay, thank you. Charlotte, with your permission, I'm going to have Marilyn go first because she hasn't asked before, and then you go. Marilyn, please.
Here I am. Whoops. I'm a little concerned because I'm not seeing any attention being paid to climate mitigation. And actually, when it comes to community resources for this area, I think you need to start thinking about how many times you force people to leave for daily activities, whether it's whether it's because somebody wants to get a cup of coffee or they want to take a toddler out, which, believe me, is a daily activity. Any of us with toddlers to entertain and get tired knows that. But I'm not seeing a thinking way. I'm not seeing that as part of the thinking to reduce trips out of the area as a climate mitigation. And I really hope you don't build another parking lot with a bunch of little trees that don't provide shade, so that when it's 89, 95 degrees, you don't go to the store because your car is too hot when you come back and you'll burn your hands on the wheel, which is beginning to happen out here. So and why not get a solar farm in there? So I'm just want to see a little attention paid on this kind of climate thinking.
Well, and we'll spend a lot of time in this space, and I appreciate the comment and the concern. First of all, every house that's built out here will have solar panels. There are options too for the commercial areas. There's not a lot we can do on the Walmart site just because it's controlled by a lease, but creating a holistic community that allows people to stay where they are and experience everything by walking or biking rather than driving in a car. Our hope is that the retail that we're looking at can create that kind of opportunity, as well as just connecting the site even more so to some of the existing schools and some of the large areas of the city through its environmental review process, not only for the specific plan, but for our development specifically. We'll do an extensive analysis of greenhouse gas emissions, noise, air quality, to start to look at some of the specific items you're talking about from a very technical standpoint. We recognize too that we really want to create a sustainable community. And I would say, just as a starting place, I hope that the biggest takeaway for everybody is, if you look at the site plan today, it is almost 100% gray asphalt and rooftops. And just from a heat standpoint, the amount of green that you see just on this conceptual plan going to from where we are will dramatically change the experience for neighbors and that are here today that might be coming to this new community in a very seamless fashion. And so we haven't solved it all for sure. There's going to be a lot more study and analysis, but we are, thinking about the kinds of things you're talking about, and hopefully you'll give us a chance to show you a little bit more about how we're hopefully solving for some of those, community concerns, but frankly, we're seeing on a, regional and nationwide basis.
Thank you. Before we get Charlotte's question, I just wanted to explain to everyone. I know Mayumi expressed some disappointment, but I just want to let you know that gray area that you see up there, it used to be a lot larger. Prologis is into, logistics type of business. Then people said, no, we just don't want more trucks here. We want more residential, more, diverse kind of thing, commercial and everything. So it has changed a lot from what they first had in mind. I should give them credit for that, for listening to community, to the city. Thank you very much for that. Then they've brought Signature Development Team that has expertise in doing successful mixed residential commercial development. So we should give them credit for that as well. Up to this point, from now on, of course, we should be vigilant, do our share of criticism, constructive criticism. Yeah. We'll be watching about every step, doing our best, and as your council member and representative, I'll do my best to represent whatever you think is appropriate. I have my own comments too, but first let's go to Charlotte.
Okay, sorry, I almost forgot my question, but so far as the retail development goes, what is the plan how do you plan on drawing retailers here? Because just hearing things, the city of Richmond send retailers through so much hassle that they don't even want to deal with Richmond at all. So, you know, what is your plan on that aspect of things?
That's a very good question. First thing we have to do is get a project approved, right? Because we have to be able to show a retailer something. The other thing is, too, and we're all experiencing this right now on a daily basis. The post-pandemic world for retail is wide open. It is changing every day. The tenants and retailers that many of us have experienced, either local stores or even smaller chains, many of them don't exist. It's going to change a lot. We're working with cutting edge designers who are engaged as we are in our other experiences with retail. We want to make sure that whatever we do is something that works and will be sustainable for the long term, so we don't have people come in and then leave. We've had a very good run of it in placing retailers and helping small businesses, once we create a space, get located and get established. And we want to have retailers that are a wide range, from a 24-hour fitness to a local coffee shop, and local businesses too. So we hope that we're going to create an experience here. If this is in fact the direction that the city decides they want to go, that allows us to take that next step. But as Mike said, we may not even be looking at breaking ground on anything or even doing demolition until potentially a 2026 period. We're going to have to look at what that retail, opportunities look like. But I hope that we'll be able to create something that really works here for everybody.
Okay, thank you. And keep in mind that 2026 is right around the corner.
Well, it is. You're right. But from a retailer standpoint, we candidly, we're not, even though we may get somebody who's interested, nobody's going to make a hard commitment until we have something where we can say we can build and deliver a building for you. And so one of the reasons we want to be talking to you in this time frame now, rather than waiting for the city's specific plan process to conclude, is to make sure that that plan ultimately, as one of its goals, is to facilitate near-term development, as opposed to having a really nice plan but may not be built out for years or decades, which is, I know, not the goal that anybody wants. And so we're trying to accelerate our process so that we don't have to wait for that specific planning process to completely end, which is candidly why we're at this early stage talking to you, as opposed to maybe a year from now. And hopefully we can, get some progress made so we're not waiting an even longer period of time.
Thank you very much. I urge everyone to please share your thoughts here and use those email addresses. Share your opinion. And April, good to see you here. Go ahead. And I usually try to keep our guests not more than an hour. So April.
Right. Thank you so much for,
I just had one more thing. How do you get on the mailing list to get invited to this meeting here?
Thank you, Charlotte. Please, I put my email address there. My name is Sohaila Bano. My email address is sohailabano@gmail.com. I'm going to put it in the chat again. If you want to get on my mailing list, email me. Thank you very much. April, go ahead, please.
Oh, real quick, thank you for organizing, and then thank this group for meeting again tonight. We did this last night. That was really great.
Good to see you again.
I recall a Whole Foods coming up, but real quickly, one thing that didn't come up was transit. I know we have a lot of people that use AC Transit, and that was something in the original plans that we really wanted to emphasize, but I didn't hear it last night, and it just beamed. Where's AC Transit and all this? If people are interested, of course, to keep that, we've got to have some kind of way to,
We have on one of our next iteration design, topics and goals is to identify through some of these, illustrative plans where a transit center might go and what that's going to look like, including just coordinating with all the agencies about what they want to see and what realistically they want to provide for service here, and leaving future-proofing, leaving some capacity and planning for options in the future, because transit's changing too. And so, again, we're coming to you really early. We don't have every design aspect, but we recognize that transit connectivity as part of this is going to need to continue to be part of the center. And, you know, I think you'll start to see that on some of our next iterative plans.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Rita, you get to ask the last question.
Thank you so much, Sohelia. And thank you so much for keeping this in the radar for our community and for bringing life and vibrancy back to our city. And the one thing I wanted to add was I was just in Atlanta at this mall called Ponce City Market. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but look it up. And it's a redesigned area, and it was lovely. And it was mixed uses of stores, and they had art galleries, and they had food, and it was built around the community. So that is a wonderful example if you haven't seen that. And then the other thing I wanted to add is my final note is Hilltop was successful and thriving for over 20 years. So I hate for our community to be looked at as a community that cannot sustain retail, because this is not just only a low-income community. There's many neighbors here who want to shop. I talk to them every day. And just like Laura said, we don't want to have to go to Walmart.
Oh, yeah. We hear you loud and clear, and we totally agree. I think the distinction we're drawing is that large regional malls, and this has happened throughout California, for the most part, in the country, have really suffered, and you know, retail has moved in a different direction, much like the direction you've talked about, the other center in Atlanta you saw. And experienced, and you know, just like we see housing types and experiences over decades transition. And so I think the regional mall format really hard to make work. New retail opportunities, you know, especially in a post-pandemic environment, some really cool creativity going on nationwide and even locally, and we think there's an opportunity to support that here. And you know, the additional rooftops that we're proposing too is just going to help enhance that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Okay.
Thank you very much, everyone, for caring and showing up and asking questions and expressing
great questions.
Yeah, thank you very much, Signature Development and Prologis. We're going to stay in touch. We really appreciate your listening to the community and welcoming questions and different opinions and everything. So let's just stay in touch, and we're going to have a meeting, I don't know, after you meet with the city and things move on a little further, then we're going to have another community gathering. Thank you very much, everyone, and have a good
night. Thanks for having us, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Good night.